Reborn. This time I avoid every intersection with Mary. She said she wouldn't go home for the summer vacation. So I packed my things and returned to the village. She helped Tom take care of the kids, so I moved out of my place. She decided to head south for business, so I ran off to the north for university. In my previous life, when I was older, even our children urged me to divorce her to fulfill their unwavering love. Ironically, in my last life, I worked myself to death earning money to support a wife and children who actually belonged to someone else. When I held the admission notice, I was extremely excited. At the last moment, I changed my application and decided to go to university in the north. The teacher looked surprised and said, "Your fiancé is afraid of the cold and is planning to head south, but you want to go north? Isn't that going in opposite directions? Can you still get married?" Regarding Mary, her beautiful and charming figure floated in my mind. Everyone knew that I got into the city school through my connection with Mary's family. Mary came from a good family, was good-looking, and did well in her studies, while my dad was originally her dad's driver and had once saved his life, which led to our arranged engagement. Otherwise, a poor kid like me would never have been able to enter that circle. I said seriously, the marriage was arranged by our parents, and such a marriage that goes against personal wishes does not align with the current trend of marriage freedom. The teacher looked at me in surprise and smiled. Indeed, you have grasped the essence of free thought. After leaving school, I returned to the dormitory. In my previous life, I went to college in the South with Mary, and we quickly got married. Not long after, she became pregnant with a child. The financial pressure on the family suddenly increased, and I fell behind in my studies. At that time, many people were starting businesses, so I dropped out to do business. From then on, I had to travel all over the country while she stayed at home as a wealthy lady, hiring a nanny to take care of the child. Outside, I ran around for business, attending banquets and socializing, sending a considerable amount of living expenses home every month. Each time I returned home, however, she and the child would not greet me warmly. Their mother-son relationship was good, and the child even called another man dad. Later on, they even went to hold a grand 60th birthday party for Tom, keeping it from me. I found out through a friend's social media that my son was kneeling on the ground, serving tea to Tom in the photo. Mary, her son, and Tom's mom were cuddling together, smiling warmly as if they were a family. My son came to me and said, "Dad, if it weren't for Grandpa breaking them up, my mom would have been with him long ago." He also said, "Dad, you and Mom just don't match. You're too shabby and too old. Why can't you let go and support true love?" The son I worked so hard to raise and provide for actually said such things to me. Over the years, I've been busy, working outside, supporting both of them, trying my best not to give my in-laws any reason to criticize. I met their material needs, yet they turned around and mocked me for not being there, saying I was too money-driven. Didn't every penny they spent come from my hard work and sacrifice? During social gatherings, I drank until my stomach bled, lying alone in a desolate hospital, fearing my family would worry, so I didn't call them. Meanwhile, she was at home cooking a mountain of food. Living with Tom, when my father passed away, she refused to come home for the funeral because of the long journey and having to bring our son. I worked tirelessly to earn money for this family. In the end, they all said I was reaching too high, that I wasn't worthy of her. They said I was blocking her love with her childhood sweetheart. They said I was a male chauvinist, possessive. Why not support Mary and Tom's love? But I just wouldn't. I had been running around and socializing for years, my organs already overdrawn, suffering from stomach ulcers, arthritis, and other ailments. Ironically, my son brought me a paternity test report telling me that he was not my biological son. He urged me to get a divorce because he knew he was Tom's son. I worked hard all my life, living like a joke. My heart couldn't take the shock. I blacked out and fell to the ground, still calling my son's name, but he left without looking back. At that moment, I felt immense regret. Why did I marry her? Why did I work so hard to earn money? Why did I waste my life because of her and that ungrateful bastard? Fortunately, I was reborn. I returned to before I married Mary. Everything can still be turned around. When I got home, I hid the admission notice and started cooking. The house was rented by Mary, who never lifted a finger to do any housework. Naturally, the chores fell to me. While cooking, I calculated how much Mary's family had supported me so far and wondered when I would leave for university. Just thinking about the specific date I would soon be leaving this city made my heart race. I took a deep breath and smiled. Soon I would be free from Mary and her family. I brought the last bowl of soup to the table just as Mary returned from outside. Not long after, there was a knock at the door, and when I opened it, I saw Tom beaming with a smile. "George, I brought my nephew over to Mucha. Who told you your cooking is so good? The kid is craving it." Tom had the typical appearance of a pretty boy working in an arts troupe, with delicate features like a character from a movie. The boy, full of energy, was very familiar with the dormitory and dashed straight into the kitchen to serve himself using the biggest bowl. After 3 bowls, there wasn't a single grain of rice left in the pot. He sweetly offered some to Mary, Tom, and himself. As for me, I could only clean up the mess in the kitchen. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the 3 at the dining table chatting and laughing. When the food hit their mouths, their pupils dilated in shock, and they spat it out. "It's so spicy, so sour." I chuckled softly watching Mary busily serve soup to the 2 of them. As soon as the soup hit their mouths, they sprayed it out. The table was covered in their saliva. "Did you have a fight with George? This dish is poisonous. Is it even meant for people to eat?" Tom looked at me with a half-smile, his face darkening as he pulled his nephew away. Mary awkwardly smiled as she sent them off, returning with a frown. I ignored her and dumped all the food into the trash can. Mary said, "What's wrong with you? Why waste food like this?" His brother sacrificed himself on a mission, and it's not easy for him to raise a child alone. "Don't you have any sympathy? They praise your cooking just to come eat at our house. If you don't like it, you could just say so. Why resort to such petty tactics?" Faced with her outburst, I didn't respond and just tidied up the dishes. Mary saw my calm expression and sighed in resignation. "At worst, just don't let them come over anymore. Don't look so stern. We owe you nothing." She sulked and went back to her room, slamming the door hard as if protesting my attitude. Fortunately, I no longer cared. I was thinking about how to tell my elders about the broken engagement. The next day, I got up early, packed my things, and saw the bedding and teacups my parents had prepared for my wedding. The happiness printed on the basin now seemed like a huge irony. After thinking it over, I decided to take these items to the market to sell and buy some meat to take home. Over the years, Mary's family had helped me, and I could never repay that kindness with my body. Money, however, could be repaid. After selling the items, I earned enough for bills. This amount is nothing in the future, but now it feels like a fortune. I calculated that to avoid complications, I should try to maintain the status quo with Mary for the time being. I went home to cook and clean. When Mary returned, I saw she had put on makeup and was carrying takeout food. "We're eating out tonight. I'll bring back the leftovers for you." Seeing her in a little floral dress and wearing perfume, I knew she was dining with Uncle Tom tonight. I didn't touch the takeout. I quietly ate my own meal, then cleaned up and went back to my room. In the room, I dealt with the wedding supplies, and the rest was mostly books. My room is very small, and the books are stuffed under the bed, which has developed a bit of a musty smell over time. I decided I needed to leave. It was no longer suitable for me to keep any personal belongings here. I marked an X on the calendar with a red pen. One day closer to freedom. Suddenly, Mary twisted my doorknob and complained, "Why are you locking the door? What is it?" I was reluctant to let her see my room, so I opened the door. Mary handed me a document. My parents asked me if the wedding date has been set. They also said the 15th of next month is a good day. It was on this very day in my past life that I got married. I said, "They'll go back and let my family know. What's there to discuss?" She pouted. Ted muttered, "Isn't it a done deal?" I silently looked at her. To outsiders, it seemed I was indeed climbing up to Mary's family. Mary's family chose me probably because they saw that I had no background, could live a stable life with Mary, and could be a supportive son-in-law for the Mary family. My parents felt that being chosen by Mary's family meant I had some ability. Besides, Mary is a rich and beautiful girl, more than enough to match a poor guy like me with nothing to my name. Over the years in Jancheng, I indeed owed Mary's family. Thinking back to my past life, whether it was a debt of love or money, I paid it back with my life. In this life, I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes and wanted to break free from Mary's family. Most importantly, I wanted to stay away from Mary. The next day, I packed my things and was about to leave when I bumped into Mary, who was holding a lunchbox. She smiled, fried dough sticks, and soy milk. "You're in for a treat today." She bought 2 tea eggs. Mary shoved the things into my hands and told me to sit down and eat. "Are you going to buy something for your parents when you go back?" Mary pulled out a box of face cream from her bag and said with a smile, "I brought it from Hong Kong for your mom." I was taken aback. "She doesn't use this," Mary said. "If not, I could go back with you." I didn't quite understand her meaning. She really hated going to the countryside. The roads were bad, dusty on sunny days and muddy on rainy days, with cow dung everywhere. Before I could refuse, I suddenly heard a loud knock on the front door, and the little boy ran in with a small soccer ball, bouncing with excitement. "Come play with me." Mary quickly took a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. "Where's your uncle? Why isn't he playing with you?" Andrew pouted and glanced at me, his eyes rolling. He said he was afraid someone would get angry. I didn't understand what that meant. The thoughts of a child aren't easy to guess. He lost his father, and his mother remarried, leaving him to rely on his uncle. Knowing his uncle's feelings, he tried hard to play matchmaker, wanting to bring Mary and Tom together. That way, he could have a new family. Andrew's way of addressing Mary says it all. He lamented that his uncle was unwell. Mary immediately put down her breakfast and hurriedly took Andrew away, not saying a word to me. I smiled softly and, in the spirit of not wasting, finished my breakfast. I tidied up and prepared to return to the village. Back in my room, I marked another big X on my calendar. Only 25 days left. I gave the exam materials to the neighbor, Mrs. Wong, whose son is in his second year of high school and needed them. Mrs. Wong looked at me thoughtfully, hesitated to speak, and finally handed me a bag of oranges. With the oranges in hand, I returned home and told my parents about the broken engagement. The reason was that the two families were too different in their circumstances, making it unsuitable. "There's a reason for the saying, marriage should be equal," my dad said. "Her values you highly. Marrying his only daughter is a blessing for you." My mom, sitting nearby peeling peanuts, said, "My son is good at studying and looks good. How could he not find a wife? Why must he marry into her family?" She added, "That girl is too beautiful. Marrying her means he would have to serve as a young master, and I'm afraid George would suffer, always being looked down upon in Mary's family." My parents ended up arguing over this matter. I can understand my dad. He feels he can't lose face in front of his old leader. In the end, I said I would handle it. My dad saw that I was determined. After all, marriage is a big deal, and ultimately it's my life. Given my attitude, marrying Mary would lead to an unhappy marriage, which would be even more disrespectful to the old leader. This is your lifelong matter. You could decide. I picked up a hoe and went to work in the fields. On the way back, the villagers saw me and teased. "Our village's first college student capable of marrying a city girl. When are you handing out wedding candies?" My dad verbally agreed to let me decide, but upon hearing this, he put on a stern face and said, "Don't joke around." The villagers were dissatisfied, thinking my family looked down on country folks after associating with city people. My dad is not good with words and couldn't defend himself. After all, the reputation of a girl's family is taken very seriously. I didn't tell them about changing my college application. I just quietly worked, finishing all the heavy chores at home. At home, I had unknowingly spent 20 days. When I was about to leave, my parents were reluctant and accompanied me to the bus station with our big yellow dog. They handed me 15 bills, which is a significant amount for my not-so-wealthy family. I vowed never to let my parents suffer the pain of having a child who is like not having one for a lifetime again. In my past life, I was busy making money and married my wife, completely ignoring my parents. My parents felt inferior and endured various grievances to accommodate my family. Thinking back to my past life made my nose tinge with sadness. Counting the days, there are still 5 days left, just 5 more days to endure. I carried local specialties and eggs to the dormitory building, where the door was wide open, revealing a harmonious scene of a family of three. Mary was clearly surprised by my arrival and stood up abruptly. I noticed some of my reference books stacked at the door, their covers torn. Tom got up and pulled Andrew into my room. Mary hardly explained that his dormitory's plumbing was having issues and finances were tight, so he's staying here for 2 days while the repairs are being done. The dormitory was all arranged by Mary's family. How she handles it is up to her. I placed the vegetables and eggs in the kitchen. Mary asked, "Have you eaten? If not, I can go buy some vegetables so we can all eat together. I'll be more lively." "You all eat. I want some noodles," I said, staying in the kitchen and not going out while the living room remained. Turned to laughter and chatter. I cooked some noodles for dinner. Mary, blushing, said to me, "Tonight you'll stay in my room and let Andrew use the bedroom for 2 days. Your things have been moved to my room." Not hearing my response, she quietly asked, "Since we're getting married soon, have you discussed with your uncle and aunt about which day to set?" As she spoke, she placed the bowls and chopsticks from the table into the sink. I said, "I'll wash them." Mary watched from the side and asked when I planned to say it. My parents have also asked. At that moment, I felt I had to be straightforward with her. Not knowing what might happen, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Tom eavesdropping. I deflected, saying, "My family has calculated the dates, and they said that day isn't good, so we're planning to postpone a bit." Mary stared at me for a while, then heard Andrew calling her loudly. Once she left the kitchen, I sighed in relief. If she pressed me further, I wouldn't know how to respond. In the living room, they sat together watching TV. The atmosphere was harmonious. I packed my things and saw 2 marriage application forms on her desk, all filled out with her information. Her bedroom is larger than mine, and I could make do sleeping on the floor in her room tonight. Then I thought about how she and I were about to break off our engagement, making it inappropriate to be alone in the same room. In 5 days, I would have to report to school. I could sleep anywhere. I'd planned to sleep in the living room. Tom sat in the living room like a Buddha, motionless as a mountain, staring at the television as if he were playing a background character waiting for his moment to appear. The mischievous child was bouncing around, clutching a small ball, running from room to room, making so much noise it gave me a headache. I had no choice but to step out of the room for some fresh air. "George, you're finally back." Neighbor Wong was fanning herself in the middle of the yard, occasionally glancing at the door of my dorm. She smiled and asked, "Have you set a date? When are you getting married?" "I'm waiting to eat your wedding candy." I could only respond with a perfunctory smile. Suddenly, Wong lowered her voice. "Your wife should keep an eye on things. Why is she always bringing men home?" She stepped closer, pulling me aside, covering her lips with her fan. Her voice was even lower. "These days, I've been keeping an eye on things for you. A man bringing a child and staying at a girl's house. What's that about? How many people has Miss Mary even met? She's dazzled by a pretty face. Can that kind of actor really live a life? Isn't he just eyeing Miss Gu for her looks and good family background, trying to dig a hole in the wall? You dare to send someone while you're not home? If your wife gets taken away, where will you go to cry? Are you stupid?" Wong earnestly advised. I was equally taken aback. Clearly, it was Mary who wanted to bring someone home, yet was being framed as my intention. Wong saw that I was in a bad mood, and her voice caught in her throat, her face turned pale, and she moved her lips. I took a deep breath and calmly said, "I'm going to help Joshua with his studies, and we'll rest at his house tonight." After organizing my things, I was about to leave when Mary stopped me. "Are you deliberately avoiding me?" she asked. No, perhaps I had always been submissive to her, carefully catering to her, and now she noticed my change in demeanor. "Is it because of Andrew? He's just a 4-year-old child, a bit mischievous. You're an adult. How can you hold a grudge against a child?" I've explained the reason. They're only staying for 2 days. "Are you jealous?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "You've told everyone it was my idea. I trust you. Is that enough?" Mary chuckled, her eyes sparkling. "You are jealous." As she spoke, she swung my arm. "Helping others isn't a big deal. I'm sorry. I apologize to you." I took a step back, avoiding her hand, just in time to hear Wong calling me at the door. Mary had no choice but to force a smile and watch me leave. After tutoring Wong's son for an hour, I slept on the floor in his room for the night. With 4 days left, I thought this money couldn't be saved, and I should find a guest house to stay for 3 nights. Wong called my name with a smile, saying, "My wife brought back breakfast." When I returned to the room, I saw the family of 3 sitting together, enjoying soy milk and fried dough sticks in harmony. Tom said, "George is eating with you. I've troubled you for a few days, so I brought you breakfast, your favorite fried dough sticks and soy milk." The fried dough sticks on the table were all hugged by the mischievous child, each one bitten into. Tom had a serious face, but his eyes were smiling. "What's going on?" I asked. "I said to leave 2 for Uncle. I don't want to. He's a bad person and doesn't deserve to eat our fried dough sticks." Andrew made a face, kicked his legs, and stuck out his tongue. I was too lazy to play along with him, so I went inside to pack my things, preparing to move out completely. As I was tidying up, I suddenly realized that the admission letter was missing. I was so anxious that I started to sweat, searching everywhere, and found it in the trash can. The back of that paper was scribbled all over, clearly the work of a child. When the child saw it, he rushed over to snatch it away, saying, "That's my drawing." I was so angry that I trembled all over and pushed him away. Andrew fell to the ground, his eyes wide open, and cried out loudly as if his heart was breaking. In fact, I didn't use much force. It was just that the child ran too fast, lost his balance, and fell when I pushed him. Tom rushed over and said sternly, "George, how can you push a child? That's bullying. You are such an ill-mannered child, refusing to behave and messing with other people's things. Get out of here." Seeing this, Andrew cried even harder, shouting that he didn't want to see me because he was scared. Tom held the child and comforted him, chuckling lightly. "This is my child. You have no right to hit or scold him. My Andrew is nothing like you. You're just a freeloader. What are you puffing up your chest for?" After throwing that out, he deliberately slammed the door shut. I knew that Tom liked Mary and wanted to climb up her family background, but Mary's family looked down on Tom, a pretty boy with no culture. Women like handsome men sometimes. One's values can be swayed by one's looks. I come from a rural background, just a country bumpkin relying on sheer strength to study hard and change my fate. I used to feel inferior in front of him, thinking I couldn't compare. It was even more so in Mary's eyes. Now that I have a second chance at life, I've realized, why should I compare myself to Tom? Just like in this life, I want to walk a path without Mary to restart on a completely different road. In fact, I once thought about getting back at Tom and Mary. However, the kindness of Mary's parents towards me was genuine. Plus, Tom's selfishness towards Mary was obvious. Otherwise, why would he always let Andrew call Mary Annie? Isn't the wife of an uncle just an aunt? Mary defaults to indulgence. Therefore, fulfilling Mary and her Prince Charming is my greatest mercy towards them. Rather than venting my anger, I prefer to let go and embrace my new life. I left the dormitory with the last bit of my luggage. After leaving a letter, I briefly explained the matter of my broken engagement with her and wished her to find a suitable partner soon and to have a happy life. For the remaining vacation, I agreed to tutor Joshua in a nearby park today. Joshua was late. He was holding an ice pop and followed by a pretty girl. Mary had dressed up today, wearing a white dress, and walked briskly up to me with her hands on her hips. Joshua didn't dare to come close, letting Mary talk. Mary pouted, "I'm hungry. You should go back and cook for me." I looked at her quietly. Mary felt uncomfortable under my gaze, hands on her hips, and not even angry. "Why are you? If you have any demands, just say it. Why threaten me with a broken engagement? Let's go buy groceries." She reached out to take my arm, but I stepped back and her hand felt empty. Her beautiful eyes wide with surprise. "Are you avoiding me?" she asked, looking aggrieved. In the past, seeing her like this would make me feel guilty and doubt whether I was good enough for her. Some hearts cannot be warmed. Some hearts, once cold, remain cold. She belonged to the former, while I belonged to the latter. My parents had resolved their side of things and planned to visit Mary's house tomorrow. After they talked it over, her parents would speak to Mary, then I could set off north to university. Seeing this, Mary gently shook my arm, acting coy. "Are you still angry?" Andrew was indeed wrong, but you're an adult. You shouldn't stoop to a child's level. It's too petty. Tom feels particularly bad about you being upset. He ran out last night to find you and didn't come back until late. It rained heavily last night, and when he came back, he was soaked to the skin. Now, he has a high fever. Dee is getting for at the clinic. Andrew is a bit mischievous. How much malice can a child have? He doesn't understand you. That's why he's causing trouble. Just get to know him more. I interrupted impatiently. Why should I get to know him more? She trembled, her lips quivering, unsure how to respond. Is he your nephew? Well, he hopes you were his aunt. Tom mocked me, saying I'm living off others. Do you think that's true? I stared at her, and Mary's expression changed little by little. Tom and I are just ordinary friends. His parents have passed away, and I feel sorry for that child. You can continue to feel sorry for him as his mother, I said softly. You always compare my shortcomings to his strengths. I feel ashamed and can't compete. I can't live off a pretty boy. I chuckled lightly. Mary's face turned red and white alternately, her eyes wide open. You're too much. I came to you to get married, and you actually slander me. You should reflect on yourself. Otherwise, don't come looking for me. After saying that, she stormed off, her body swaying a bit. I withdrew my gaze and called Joshua over to continue the tutoring. Joshua gasped. Bro, aren't you going to chase after sis-in-law? The pretty boy likes sis-in-law. She's a bit confused and temporarily enchanted by that face. I closed the textbook. Don't you want to continue tutoring? I do, Joshua said, making a zipping motion with his mouth. I coldly laughed inside. Perhaps in her eyes, not marrying someone who desperately wants to climb the social ladder is the greatest punishment. It's simply absurd. The next day, I went to Mary's house, explained my intentions, and returned half of the money I had to Mary's father, signing an IOU. Mary's two elders were very surprised to see that I was determined. Recently, I had also heard news of Mary and Tom being together, thanks to Wong's persuasive skills. My reward was naturally helping Joshua with his tutoring. Mary's parents agreed and did not take my money, only saying that I should give back to society in the future. It was Mary's father who helped me buy the train ticket and prepared some local specialties for me to take with me. I was touched and said, "Take care." He sent someone to take me to the train station, and after a 2-day, 1-night journey, I arrived at school, bumping along the way. In my previous life, I went south for college, choosing a major I didn't like to accommodate Mary. Later, because she got pregnant, she urged me to go into business. In the end, I dropped out halfway and worked hard to earn money for the family. Now, starting over, I wanted to make up for that regret by studying my favorite engineering major. My parents couldn't help me much, so I had to rely on myself at school. A month later, I received a call from Mary. She had spent some time finding my whereabouts and called the school office. I didn't answer and had the teacher hang up. Mary started writing letters to me. At first, she scolded me for being ungrateful, then explained that there was nothing between her and Tom and said she would. I couldn't break off the engagement. She even sent me 50 yuan as living expenses. I didn't reply to her letters, and as for the money, I didn't accept it. I just saved it. My experiences from my previous life allowed me to quickly find a part-time job to support myself. By the end of the semester, Mary had written 13 letters. Her tone changed from being forceful at the beginning to becoming softer and more sincere, apologizing and hoping for my reply. I only read them without responding. As for the money she sent, I immediately returned it to Mary's father. In her last letter, Mary wrote that when the new year came, she would definitely marry me. When I returned, I didn't like it, but I could not go home for the new year just because of her. After the school winter break, Joshua came to pick me up. He talked about the recent gossip. The biggest event was that Mary could no longer cling to me. Miss Mary married Tom. Joshua wondered how she clearly couldn't let go of me. Later, Juana told me that Mary must have fallen into Tom's trap. The social norms in this era are still relatively conservative. Tom used alcohol to get Mary into bed, and then he took advantage of the situation. Mary had no choice but to marry him, Juana said. I knew Mary would fall for Tom. She was driving her parents crazy. Tom works in a cultural troupe. Mary was spoiled by her parents, had little life experience, and on top of that, Tom could perform and easily manipulated her. When I was around, Tom was more restrained. Once I left, Tom used the excuse of comforting her to get close to her. Their relationship developed naturally. When the winter break ended, I returned to school, and at the train station, I unexpectedly saw Mary. The difference was that I was heading north and she was heading south. We were on different platforms, heading in opposite directions. My train departed first, and I boarded. Through the glass, I saw her looking at me as if she had 1,000 words to say. As the train moved, we completely missed each other, restarting our different life trajectories. When I arrived at school a month later, I received a letter from her. There were tear stains on the paper. She said she had planned to wait for me to return for the new year to get married, but she was schemed by Tom. He deliberately got her drunk and made that happen. She had no choice but to marry Tom. She apologized to me. After that, I never received another letter from her. After graduating from university, I decided to stay at school and dedicate myself to national defense engineering. Protecting my country is my lifelong career. Extramar, I first heard that George went to my house to see my parents, thinking he must be there about the marriage. I knew in my heart that he couldn't let go of me and would come back to admit his mistakes and beg me. So I waited and waited in the dormitory for him to come find me. I always thought that, however, I waited a long time without seeing him. Tom told me that George had gone north to the university and had abandoned. I argued that it was impossible and ran to the guest house, but I didn't see anyone. I looked for Joshua, and he was surprised that I didn't know which university George attended. When I returned home, my parents said that George came to our house that day just to break off the engagement. I angrily said, "Why didn't you inform me? This is between him and me." My dad scolded me, saying, "When you were flirting with Tom every day, why didn't you tell us? Have you considered George's feelings? How can you still have the audacity to say that Tom and I are just pure friends? You're lying. You're a woman bringing all sorts of men back to the dorm." I was stunned and retorted, "It's your dirty mind that sees everything as filthy. If you're not dirty, then what about Tom? Aren't you just infatuated with his looks?" Dad told me to get lost, and Mom pulled me outside, and I cried. Isn't he my dad? Why is he speaking for an outsider? People's hearts are hard to read. Haven't you compared Tom with George? In fact, my shouting was to cover up my own insecurity. Deep down, I hoped my husband would have Tom's looks and George's character. If I really had to choose between Tom and George as a husband, I would choose George. He has good character, is responsible, can endure hardship, and is capable. I was unwilling and told my mom that I would definitely win George back. I didn't expect the first step to be that I called him, but he rejected my call. I started writing him crazy letters, saying a lot of mushy things, and even sent him money. He never replied to a single one, and even returned the money to my dad. Dad ordered me not to harass him anymore, scolding me that I wasn't worthy of him. I was very angry, and Tom came to find me again, scolding George for not cherishing me. Andrew kept trying to cheer me up in different ways. I maintained my distance from him, but later he noticed and invited me to dinner, saying he would help me win back my fiancée. That night, I was in a bad mood, drank a lot, and cried heavily. I mistook Tom for George. I heard him whispering that he loved me. When I woke up, I realized everything was wrong. Tom said he would take responsibility and marry me. I didn't want to marry him at all, but everyone knew about our situation. Later, I found out that he had deliberately gotten me drunk, setting a trap for me to fall into. After we got married, I quickly became pregnant and dropped out of university. Tom did not do any housework, liked to drink and gamble, and asked me for money every day. My parents compared him to George, and he got angry and took it out on me when he got home. At first, he just scolded me, but later he pushed me. I had never suffered such humiliation and fought back. A woman can never beat a man, especially since I was pregnant. In the end, I had a miscarriage and was left with health issues. I regretted it deeply and shouted that I wanted a divorce. At that time, divorce was very shameful, but I couldn't stand it. Tom refused to divorce me, kneeling in front of my parents to beg for my forgiveness, promising. In reality, domestic violence is either 0 or countless times. Andrew's nature is just like Tom's because of that severe miscarriage. My uterus was damaged. The doctor told me that I could no longer get pregnant. Tom insulted me, saying that a woman who can't have children isn't even a woman. After the divorce, who would still want me? My mother also told me to endure this. This is the path I chose, the wrong path she forced me to walk down, telling me to accept my fate. Unlike me, who is wasting away and getting by in life, I suddenly thought of George. Joshua said he saw his report in the newspaper, which included a photo of him. He was wearing work clothes, staring intently at the camera, upright and full of vigor. My heart ached as I remembered how he used to be all about me, bending down in the small kitchen to fuss over the essentials. It felt like it was from a past life. I had a dream. In the dream, George and I got married, and not long after, I became pregnant. He treated me very, very well, giving me most of the money he earned. I complained that he was often not at home because he had money and time and was mixing with Tom. He thinks that Tom and I are in love, deliberately forged a paternity test, and tried to bring Tom and me together. I dreamt that George was so angry he had a heart attack and collapsed on the ground. At that moment, I suddenly opened my eyes, my heart racing, feeling extremely suffocated. I heard someone banging on the door. I got up to open it, and there was still the police. Tom was caught cheating with someone else's wife, and they called me to the police station. I couldn't help but recall the life of my dream as if it had really happened. Only this time, Tom's cheating partner was me. Now the wheel of karma has turned. It's my turn to reap the bitter fruits. I saw Tom's deformed body, beaten black and blue, blaming a woman for seducing him. He poured all the dirt on the woman, showing no responsibility, only knowing how to live off others. I can no longer endure it. I wanted a divorce. Of course, he refused, hit me, and mocked whether I was thinking about George again, saying I was not worthy of him at all. Yes, I played a good hand poorly, whether in the last life or this one. Perhaps Tom is my retribution. Oh, woman from heaven to hell. All it takes is to encounter a scumbag.